welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting. In another episode of the Indie Show, we're doing another episode of Deadly Clash. We've finally dug into the final hardcover here. We're doing volume 10 tonight. So 4 issues tonight. And we got my usual crew with me. I got my man Greg, Bearded Comic Bro. What's up?
going on? Dude, I'm excited to talk about this. Well, I'm excited because it's going to be a fun conversation.
There you go.
I don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to be fun.
All right. And then, of course, we got Haley. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. I am so excited to see what everyone thinks about these 4 issues.
I am as well. I'm very curious where you guys are at. I know I have the feeling that Greg and I probably won't agree very much.
Probably not.
but,
Probably not.
But we will see. We will see. So just initial thoughts on volume 10. Just a little overview. What did you think? I'll save Greg for that. I'll let Haley go first here. What did Haley think of volume 10 here? These 4 issues.
So I have to admit that I read them before the show today, and so I feel like I almost need more time to just process it, because I'm
Right.
I read it and I was like, how do I feel about this? It feels like I don't quite know. I mean, there's parts that it's just so different that it's I feel like I have to almost recontextualize it in a different way, outside of everything else that we've read,
Right.
because it just felt like such a drastic leap that I really was not expecting. And so I almost also need to read more in order to kind of, I think, understand how I feel. Cause I don't know where he's going with this. I'm really,
Right.
I have
Okay.
theories and I'm so scared.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a different. He changes the way he's telling the story in this volume for sure. So,
Yeah.
Greg, what did you think about this dramatic shift in the storytelling style here? He's taking deep breaths.
Here, this is always a struggle for me because I try to never be negative when it comes to something in art. It's, because that time it's it's not for me.
Yeah.
But for something that I have loved for so long, this was a tough volume for me because it felt like a departure from what I love so much. And I do lean into what Haley was saying. If we're 4 issues into the last 12.
Yeah, it's basically 12 issues here, and he's 3 volumes split of 12 issues. So we're 24, 4, and 4.
So it might be one of those where once I see where we go, I go, you know what? Okay, I get it, and I appreciate it. This was the first time where I genuinely said to myself, if I was reading this in single issue format, I might wait, trade wait. This would have been where I might have, these 4 issues would have made me maybe go, I'm going to trade wait. Now it would play into a lot too of if I knew it was going to end in, 10 more issues, I'd be fine, whatever. But if I didn't know that it was going to end in 10 issues, this might be where I start to go, is this something I want to keep on my poll, or is this something that I'm going to wait till I get it in trade? And that was the first really departure for me to ever even think about that, because usually it's just been one, maybe 2 issues of volume where I go, but this felt like a complete departure from what we've been seeing when he's been telling the stories via each volume. So this was a little tough for me.
I get completely where you're coming from, because these 4 issues suddenly we're jumping into the future.
Way into I was going backwards, going where are we at?
Right.
What year was it when?
Well, he does give you, there is a title, there is a page in there each time that gives you the year, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, I had to go back and say in the last one we talked about, what year was that? Because I was wait, where are we now? Because this feels so far in advanced.
Yeah. So you jump ahead. So basically we left of course, he doesn't give us the full answer of what the moment he left us with, which was Marcus, Maria, and Stefano. So we jump ahead. Basically, that was in '89. We don't see anything to finish with the school. We jump ahead to Marcus I think it very much, I agree with you. It's very much going to depend on how this wraps up.
Right.
How ultimately I feel about these 4 issues, because they are very much standalone. Like each of the 4 is very much its own thing here. And it's clear he's like, I feel like he got to the point where he's like, okay, it's time for me to start bringing this to the end where I want them to go. And ran out of steam for telling the day in, day out to get there. You know what I mean? Like, realize how long this was actually going to be if he didn't start doing what he ends up doing here, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. It almost, I kind of wish I knew of, is this him saying, hey, I'm wrapping it up here? Or was this Image saying, hey, you need to start to wrap this up? Because it felt so rushed. This volume felt rushed to me, of moving the story along to where he wanted to get to.
It was also written during COVID.
Okay.
So, I was reading in the letters in the back of the issues, and he basically was had COVID, was trying to write some of this. So I was really curious if this was also a product of as well, and where I think people if it felt rushed because they were trying to wrap it up, because I don't know, during that time where maybe comic book store, I don't know. I mean, there's just so much speculation that could really go.
Right, Haley, if it was during that time, there was a time where we didn't know what the comic book industry was going to be doing,
right,
and how much they were going to do, because there was a hard pencils down during COVID. So of we're not going to put out more stuff. So if this was that, there might have been Rick going, I don't know how much more time I have left. I got to figure this out.
Maybe. And he knew where he wanted the story to go. So he figured he changed the way he was going to get there, potentially.
And this is why I said I need Gore here.
But I will say,
I know.
But I will say I didn't necessarily dislike it. Although the first issue, I think, was the toughest one for me. So let's dig into issue 45 here. So we jump. We see him in the snow on the mountain, the gun going off, and we're like, okay. And now we're in Phoenix, Arizona, in the desert. And it's post-school Marcus, 1991. So he's
2 years.
Yeah, he's still only 17, 18 at this point, I guess. He was 16.
Oh, really? I didn't even think about the age.
Well, their graduating class was supposed to be the class of '89, is what it said in a previous.
Yeah. But they were technically only sophomores in '89, because remember they were freshmen, they were sophomores. So anyway,
was that really only get to sophomore year that year?
It was only 2 years.
From all we've read, wow.
Yeah. So I'm putting him 18, 19 at the most.
Right.
When we get to this, so he's post-school, hanging out, basically, which a lot of people after high school, we're seeing Marcus try to find himself, and he's still the same, sort of snob, too cool for the world a little bit with his friends, or at least that's the persona he likes to portray. But we see him sort of trying to live a normal life here. He's into grunge. He's delivered pizzas. He's living in the bathroom of an apartment. I mean, so what did you think of this, Haley, as we dig into when we see Marcus in 1991 here?
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit here we go.
He's a stoner. He's completely in the 90s grunge stoner.
Yeah, and he's selling drugs, kind of, and just doing a bunch of drugs. And I don't know, it was just I think something that, there's this aspect of me that hopes that Marcus changes and is a certain kind of person by the end of this. And then I think there's also very much the way that he constantly Rick Remender writes Marcus is in a kind of more honest way of like, this kid has gone through so much and has had such a horrible and hard life. Like, I don't know, it's like the reality of that kind of like person, then just kind of like, it's not like you're going to have this like grand transformation or gets out of King's Dominion as like this brand new person. It's like, he's still like having nightmares and like doing drugs and still kind of like very much the same person. And so, yeah, I don't know. I was a little, it kind of, JP, like you were saying, this issue was like a little hard for me because I wasn't just like really getting into it in the way that I was hoping to.
What about you, Greg? What do you think of post-school Marcus here as we see him still trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life?
I feel like this is my fault, gang. I feel like I spoke this into existence because I literally said last show, I'm like, I get it. We're going to get where we do like, we're going to get these flashbacks of Helmet of like how he got into this pitfall. And we're going to, this next volume is going to be like flashback episode. Like I didn't think like it was going to like jump forward so much. And then like, oh, let's now kind of slowly
fill in what really finished up. Yeah.
I mean, JP, Haley, listen, you guys both know my first like gripe with this issue. Like Rick, what's with the poop fascination, Rick? Like
I can't not read those scenes and not think of you.
He's got Marcus on the floor giving himself an enema. And he's like, man, this is gonna be good comic reading. I know, like, Rick, come on, like what? Like, I work with middle schoolers, and they're all like, poop jokes are funny for them. So I'm like, Rick, come on. This just it felt it did. I will give him this. This felt like a Deadly Class issue of where those times like where he's at the record shop, because music does seem to influence Rick Remender here throughout this series and has always been a crucial part of Deadly Class. And like him talking about music in the genre at the music store that one scene where, oh, he also had a poop incident at the music store. But like he's talking about this with this random girl in Arizona who's like, and they had the Nirvana splash page where it said 1991. So like that aspect felt normal because I do feel like Rick loves to go off on these kind of like tangent's not a good word, but these times where he wants to explore like and process out maybe in comics like his feeling with music and people's influence. And you know, because the girl's kind of calling Marcus on his stuff too of like, oh, you're wearing flannel and you really like this band, but you just don't like it now because everyone else likes it. And is like, yes, that's and that's a token, like that's 100% just a vibe of like music people. And I almost think it's kind of like in comics too, of like when you get like, oh, I love these indie comics and now everyone else likes it. Like, but I liked it before it was mainstream.
It was cool.
Yeah. And so you get a little bit of that, I think, with this issue, but it does just feel like it's classic from Deadly Class of where we go from this pivotal moment of what's going to happen next. And then Rick Remender just says, I'm not going to tell you for like 8 issues. So deal with it. Like, we're going to go. Like I had to go. I don't like it when I have to go back and like reread something and go, what did I miss? Like I was reading this first issue feeling pretty confident because I had read it 3 weeks ago.
Right.
When we did this. And I'm like, I got to go back to the hardcover volume 3 and like, where were we at? Because this doesn't even feel the same story. And so it just,
yeah,
it felt off to me, and I was just like, where are we going? And spoiler alert, the rest of the volume didn't bring me in to go, okay, I'm cool with that issue being what it was.
I'm gonna let Haley go before I give my thoughts. Haley, what did you think about just this jump around here? I'm curious what you think about the conversation with the girl, because I do think she calls him on a bunch of it. Like this normal person, like calls him on a bunch of his fake BS that he loves to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think she just really hit the like, Marcus can get in these moments of kind of like waxing poetic, especially about like, how people are kind of buying into mediocrity, and he kind of positions himself at this like kind of arbiter of taste, and just really puts himself above others, and like especially when it comes to music and art.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of love that she was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Someone is ringing my doorbell. I don't know.
It's Domino's. Marcus is coming for you, Haley. Watch out.
I'm gonna put myself on mute. I'm gonna see who is ringing my door really quickly.
Okay, you're okay.
All right, JP, what are you thinking?
So I thought I actually like this issue is such a weird departure, but I do feel like it feels like Deadly Class to me, like because this is Marcus in his own head most of this issue, and I do think it's interesting that we get to see like I do think this interaction with this normal girl that he's trying to impress without impressing, he's trying to be disinterested and whatever. Like, I do think it's a fun interaction because she calls him on, well, you'll course correct, you'll move back. Like, she says the parents, which is not real, but like, she talks about that eventually he's going to course correct. And I think we do see that in the later issues that he has started to do that. Okay. Haley was okay, right? I looked up; she was still fine.
She did not let anyone into her apartment, right?
I didn't think so. So, she was still standing there. So maybe we'll get a message in a second. So yeah, like I was trying to like keep an eye without like being nosy. So hopefully we're all good there. But yeah, I mean, we see that he's still processing 2 years later. He's struggling to process everything he's been through, and like he's got out, and we don't know how he's gotten out at this stage. So I don't think, like, from that standpoint of it, everything here I think is actually, if you're gonna do this jump ahead, it's actually pretty good, except for we got to throw in the weird poop stuff, but
right.
Like him trying to interact with normal people, struggling to not be that guy that he's always been, like, and still being that guy. But then we see that no, he's not. We get to the end of this and we see he's not free yet.
Yeah, and that was my hang up for me, because I agree with you. It did still feel like Deadly Class, like the voice. This was Marcus. This is through and through Rick telling pop culture stuff of his issues. But I was just like, man, I didn't like. I don't like that storytelling technique, and that's just a personal feeling. Like, I'm not a creator, so who am I to tell Rick Remender to be like, you shouldn't tell a story like this? Like, whoa, you sold millions of comic books, and I just talk about comic books I like.
Yeah,
but I don't like where I have to go, where I have to physically go, what's going on? And that would have really bothered me, I think, reading this in single issues, not having, reading the last issue and then getting this issue for a month and then having to wait a month to go, what happens next?
Yeah.
And not get much payoff, in my opinion, the next 3. That would have been 4 months going, I don't know what I think about this.
Well, right, like, because we go through this whole volume and we never get the payoff to him and Maria, or not yet.
Not yet.
I really think this depends
on. They hint at it, but we don't get.
I think a part of this suffers from the fact that, like, we're reading this as collected, but my guess is we're probably going to feel like these 4 issues, I feel like he's putting in to get us where we're going to go in the last 8, or at least I hope that's the case, is to try to transition from where we were to where we're going. And it's just bumpy. It just is not a smooth transition. And we don't know where the end is yet. So maybe it smooths it out when we see where we're going. But and
this bumpy part is kind of where I'm like, this is where I would have said, how do I keep going? Because if I read this up to 4 months of not getting any resolution, I'd be like, is this something I want to keep? However, if he said, hey, I'm ending this in 10 more issues, like, hang in there, or 8, I would have said fine. Yeah. I would have trusted. But if it was kind of like I didn't know, this is where I would start to go, do I want to hang in there monthly, or is this something I want to wait to read?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump to 46 here. We spent 20 minutes on that first issue. Hopefully Haley will come back.
Before we do, who was the person at the end of this issue? Do you notice that person? Because he's literally fighting someone like in a laundromat butt naked.
Right.
I don't know who that person was.
Well, I think this person was just sent to find and kill him.
Okay. So it was just someone that was like, which is just like, that ending was hilarious, of like this normal girl who's like, she walks in on Marcus giving himself an enema, and then he runs out to chase after him and he's butt naked. And then this guy, like, who's waiting there, like, is trying to kill him. And like, he then fights him butt naked. Well, this chick then is watching him do this, going like, what's going on? And he says, the issue ends with him going, this is about as me as it gets.
Yeah, like living his life as a cluster.
Like, listen, I have people trying to kill me. You walk in on me, giving myself an enema. I'm gonna fight someone and kill him butt naked. Like, that's my life. This is it.
My life is effed up as you can possibly imagine.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the S show for sure.
Welcome, and we can replace the S with the Rick Remender because he loves that joke so much. Welcome to the Rick Remender show.
So, all right. So next issue we jump to 97.
We jumped 6 years. We jumped 6 years from that issue, and now we are almost literally 8 years from the events that we read an issue ago.
Yeah. So what do you think about this? So we jump to him hanging out with Zenziel and
Helmet's there.
Well, we'll get the Helmet and T and Jayla and reconnecting. What did you think of this issue here? And the reveal that Helmet is alive.
Yeah, well, because we ended the issue before the one we just talked about with the gunshot, and there was controversy of what gun was used because it was a bang bang and a blam blam, so there were different gun sounds.
Right.
And this is starting to kind of line up with a little bit of like, who did he shoot? Because Helmet had at that end of the issue, Helmet was under this like psychotic cult, and he had his axe against Maria's throat at the time, right?
Right.
And
Stefano shot him.
Stefano shot him. And then we see Stefano and Maria together. We see Helmet there, and we see Marcus look at the gun. And it ends with blam blam or bang bang, whatever.
Yeah.
So this was a little bit, again, one of those going, what's going on here? And they kind of were like, well, if you showed up, Marcus, what's happening? Like, why are you here? More trouble's gonna follow. And I didn't hate it, but I was just kind of going, I don't know what's going on.
Right. Well, it's saying, I do like that we get what my guess is probably most of our wrap for Helmet, Zenziel, and T here. I feel like we're gonna, based on the next issues, that we're gonna be moving into focusing on some other characters to wrap this up. And I like to see that, because I felt like he'd kind of done Helmet dirty in the way that Helmet's transition from what he was when we first meet him to what, how he kind of gets sucked into the cult and everything else. And so I just wanted to check here. It looks like Haley has responded.
Yep.
Oh, it is somebody bothering her. So, yeah. Yes. So sorry to anybody watching. We're just a little distracted.
Yeah, we'll Haley had someone show up. We'll deal with that, and we're gonna kind of be checking our phones to make sure.
Yeah, we got it where she can message us. So hopefully everything is fine.
So
and we'll be fine. So
we'll keep the show going while we're distracted. So just deal with it.
Yeah, I totally lost my train of thought. But
this is the Rick Remender show. You don't know what's gonna happen.
So yeah, we see Marcus put himself back in their life because he wants to get some closure on something, and they're not like happy to see him, but they don't like also shut him out. So what do you think of the interaction, just the way they interact with each other, given, and we do get, well, I'll get to that in a minute. So what do you think of just the interaction of this group as they're back together here for the first time in basically a decade, 8 years?
It's a weird interaction because I don't have any history to go off of.
Right.
And like, so it was a weird storytelling technique for me as a reader because Helmut and Marcus have always been butting heads, as of late. And now they're like, Helmut's in a Speedo on a yacht and Marcus is there with the other people and they're like chit-chatting. And when we last left them, they're like, there's tension going on. And it just felt, I don't know. I had there were too many issues back to back where I wasn't getting enough information to go, I'm okay with where we're going with this story. So for me, this felt like an awkward interaction because I didn't know what was going on, because I didn't know what happened. I just didn't like them. I'll be honest. I'll just somewhat spoiler. I didn't like the move to jump 10 years forward and not resolve anything before we hit there. It just felt
to do
disjointed for me.
And and I get that because the pacing here is definitely disjointed. And we're seeing we do get a very brief flashback. During this issue, we do get a little bit of a flashback to the setup of how things ended at the school. Basically Marcus comes and he set them up. We need closure. They're going to take part in something. They're not exactly sure what they're doing. It's clear Marcus is still sort of leading this life where they've all managed to basically appear to have gotten out of it, or gotten away from it. And so we get we finally get to see Marcus's grand plan, which I'm not sure what I think of, like, let's just wait to the last day when everybody's ready to do violence and we'll just turn it on as we see his grand plan here.
Right.
So what did you think of his grand plan now that we get to review?
Well, I will say what I do appreciate, like Rick Remender, like throwing in the pop culture, like in 1997, Titanic was the movie. And so we have this splash page with Titanic, and then the entire thing, that issue is them on a boat, basically. So I'm like, that's smart storytelling for me. So like there's nods where I appreciate what Rick Remender does, where I go, okay, I know I'm knocking you for how you're telling the story, but I do appreciate some of those things. To get to the grand finale of like what's happening, it does just feel like a little bit of still what's going on, because they have this like cutesy, like, oh, we're all jumping in the cold water and pushing each other over, and then we get to like this weird like bathroom scene of like where Marcus like fixes graffiti, and then we get to the grand plan where they're like, hey, Master Lynn's calling us all to an auditorium, and
it's the final day of the year again. It's it's the kill the rat, hunt the rats. Okay.
Hunt the rats, and Marcus has this box, and Marcus kind of does this like signal with, what is it, Stefano. And Shabnin is like, oh, they're doing something. Watch out, Master Lynn. And Master Lynn's like, shut up. And then like Marcus just comes up and straight is like, we've always been dealing with these rats. Like, now let's kill the snake. And he's like, let's just kill the faculty.
Yeah.
And this felt like the first time reading this, I guess, issue. And then this was 3/4 of an issue in where I go, okay, this is Deadly Class.
Yeah.
This is what I come to expect. And I guess I just would have liked this more sequential than the jumping forward, flashing back, jumping forward. That was just too disjointed for me in this medium of storytelling. If it's in a movie, I think it allows it, or a TV show, maybe a little bit more grace. But when you're telling this story month to month, one issue at a time, that was a tough departure for me to like embrace in. And I'm reading this via trade.
Right.
So I like the plan. I like where Marcus is just like, enough is enough. The faculty is what's causing all of these issues. Let's just take them out.
Yeah. I will admit, I like this issue. Like, the more I think about it, and I hear you say the reasons you don't like it, I think I like it more because I think I do appreciate, and a lot of it will depend again on where he's going with this. But I don't mind the jumping around here. It feels like if you're gonna, like, he's trying to hit. It feels like I said at the beginning, that it was like, okay, we're gonna bring this to an end, and if you're just gonna be hitting what he considers seminal moments or key periods in Marcus going forward, I don't mind the jumping around if it's setting up helping to set up the moments that we've already seen.
Yeah,
you know what, that we should have already seen that are in the past. I don't mind that as much. Like, if that's the way we're shifting, it's just a very jarring shift. You know what I mean? And so I get why you like. I have all the same concerns you have. I just like. Hopefully, it pays off. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not. And at this point, I'm okay with where it's going.
Right.
But after we get that big reveal that they're going to take on the teachers, we jump back to 97. We see where Marcus is taking them, and they have found the cult again. And this is maybe my bigger issue. It's the cult thing. This is not a great payoff of the last volume in the cult at the house. Like, they just set their little clan building on fire. And like, you know. But I do like Helmet talking about, like, they'll probably just like they'd almost thank us for it, you know?
Yeah, like, and
they may even be grateful, and they, you know, because they're a death cult. And they're like, ooh,
and Brandy's there.
Well, clearly that guy never, like, they took Brandy, and Brandy's been brainwashed to be a part of them. But of course, Brandy, like, who has like 37 lives at this point, is the one that gets away. Like, she's been supposed to be dead like 9 times.
Brandy, like, I'm like, what's Rick gonna do with Brandy? Because Brandy's just like, she's just like sneaky, like, hey, I should be dead like 20 times, like you said, JP, and she's just like, but I'm still here.
I'm still here, yeah.
It's like Ellen John, I'm still standing. But yeah, like, dude, that again, like, we got to, this is where it felt disjointed to me, where I was like, I liked where we were getting to the payoff of, okay, Marcus had a plan to attack the faculty at the school, and then we kind of jump forward again to this cult, and it's like it and the payoff of that with the fire wasn't impactful as it was, and I was just like,
Yeah, I would agree. The cult, the whole thing with the cult in the last volume and this volume, it felt like an unnecessary enemy.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like it felt a little rushed. It felt like there wasn't a great setup to why they came in. I don't know. The whole thing, like, to me, that's been the weakest part of the whole thing to me, is the cult.
Yeah, and we still don't get payoff of, like, how the cult has this much influence on people. Like, it just is kind of there as a segue to as a storytelling device, and I just it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're fine.
We haven't, yeah. So, all right. So next we jump back. So we got, we can jump further into the future. We're 2001, right? 2001.
Yeah.
And we see Saya is not doing so hot.
Saya is a hot mess.
She is living on the streets. If we thought Marcus was drugged out in the first issue, no, he's not even close to where Saya's at. She's just, yeah. Completely lost in the drugs and despair and, and we see her at the end when she sees Brandy's billboard that she's running for something, like running for office, like kind of lose your crap. What did you think of what has happened to Saya?
I hated this again. I was hesitant about the first issue of the volume. And then I kind of was like, okay, we're there. Then we went to the cult. Then we jumped to here and I go, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, we jumped to 2001. This is a complete just Saya issue. And it doesn't, in my mind, doesn't move the narrative forward at all. And I'm just like, okay, she's a hot mess. And nothing happens that gets me interested until the last page.
Right.
And to me, I was just like, it again, if I was reading this in single issues, this would have felt like a throwaway issue to me of going, I gained nothing from reading this except that she's in a bad place, which you could have told in 2 pages in a previous issue or another issue and tell more of a story. To spend an entire issue on Saya just being like, I'm a wreck. It didn't do anything for me. And so like, I'm just like, because the first 2 issues were so like, meh, this just was like, oh. And this is where I'm like, this is where I hit that plateau for me of like, I don't know if I would have kept going on in single issues because this is rough.
Yeah. I don't disagree, but I do sort of disagree a little.
You're right. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about art.
Because, like, as you're reading it, it's like, okay, things have went really sideways for her.
Right.
Like, things have not went well. And so you're wondering, okay, how did she, like, everybody else seems to have made it out pretty well of our group. So what went wrong for Saya?
Right.
The one thing we skipped, and we'll go back to it after this. I'll go back to it after this issue real quick, that we skipped in that last issue. But, like, I thought it was interesting to see, because she had been, in many ways, so much stronger than most of them, or at least appeared that way.
Right.
And to see her just broken was,
right.
For me, was very dramatic. And to see where she's at, and then that last page reveal, like you talked about, of Marcus, like, seemingly having his shit together.
like, who are you, Marcus? This is
like that we're far enough now that, removed, that he's figured out who he is and what he's going to be finally, and we see that she's still broken. It was just jarring because all through the story, it's like if somebody's going to figure out who they are and what they're going to be, it's Saya, and it's not Marcus. Is the F up.
Right? Yeah, and like Marcus is. I feel like Marcus should have just been listening to like My Chemical Romance on this issue, like, and like trying to figure out his stuff still. And it's like, nah, he's cool. Like, it's all good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I would agree. There's not a lot here other than just Saya's in a bad place, and we're gonna we'll see where that takes us. We see why, I think, at the end of the next issue. The one thing we skipped that I wanted to touch back on is we do get in the previous issue when they're talking to Marcus, when he's talking to the other group, is we do find out he did kill Stefano. But we just don't know what happened after.
Well,
or he says he killed Stefano when they ask him.
Well, where was that in? What part of the? I'm
That's when they were on the boat, and he's talking to Helmet, and they're like, "Yeah, we came up and we found Stefano dead, and Helmet alive, and bloody footprints going off into the snow." And so I assume Maria disappeared after that.
Well, I asked because you're right. We did miss this point, and I do. They don't technically say he killed Stefano.
Well, they say Stefano was dead.
Right, but when we last saw that panel, Stefano was hugging Maria.
Right, and then we hear Marcus picks up the gun, and we hear all the shots.
And it says, "Is this because of what you did at King's?" And he said, "I had zero trouble since, slept like a baby." And then, and Jayla says, "And Marcus is the one who killed." And Marcus gets like, "Whoa, oh, sorry." And he goes, "It's cool."
Well, I think he was talking about Lynn, but yeah, we don't know for sure.
We don't know if it's. I don't know if it's Lynn, if it's Stefano, if it's did he shoot Stefano and Maria? Like,
yeah, we don't know. We don't know what happened to Maria.
So there is a little bit of going like.
Well, they didn't find Maria's body, but yeah.
But there is a little bit of just like,
No. So with that, we get to the last issue of this volume, and it is basically okay. Good, she's typing. That makes me feel better. So sorry, because we just had, and we get graduation day. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, we get graduation day. And we see Marcus's plan coming to fruition, and sorry, I'm gonna be distracted, folks, for just a second.
Yeah. And so we get to the graduation. We're back to 1989. And so it picks up where issue 2 of this volume left off, where it was like, hey, this is Marcus's plan. Now we see Marcus's plan in action. And it was like, this is again where I'm like, okay, now we're back to Deadly Class.
Yeah. We're back to Deadly Class. We see their fight to take out the teachers. We see how good the kids have gotten, and how well they've been taught.
Yep.
We see Stefano, we see Jayla, we see Marcus, and taking out the teachers, and basically Lynn on his own. We get 1999, which we're back to 1989. Sorry,
so 1989. Yeah.
Berlin Wall coming down, and in our little thing, and we see Saya choose a side here. What did you think of her choice?
To me, it was shocking at first, but I understood it.
Yeah.
Saya has always been about. I feel like Saya, of all people, has been always loyal to the school and to Master Lin. While she could do what she could do to keep Marcus safe. And I feel like this is where we start to see the tension breaking of them, of where Marcus is making decisions where Saya goes, I can't get on board with that.
Yeah. But we also see her, like, she has the opportunity to kill him a couple times here and doesn't.
Well, because I think there's clearly she still has the heart and the care for Marcus and who Marcus is, but right now her allegiance, And it might be a false allegiance that Rick Remender might do a rope-a-dope on us of why she did what she did, because that's a classic Rick.
Well, she's trying to. She sees Master Lin as her only way to get her role and her family back, to get what she wants, to take her revenge on her brother. And, so Marcus is in the way of that. She doesn't want Marcus dead, but she needs Master Lin. That's basically what it comes down to.
But I feel like there's always this underlying current of why people do what they do in Deadly Class that we don't realize until a couple issues. And so we still might see something where Saya's like, this is why I did what I did. And we go, oh, that makes complete sense because she was looking out for whatever. And that's a classic Rick roll by Rick Remender.
For sure. So the other thing we get here, after we get Saya basically trying to save Master Lin initially, is Stefano goes after Shabnam.
Yep.
What do you think of this Stefano, Marcus, Shabnam sequence?
It was interesting. I don't know how I feel about Foley, but this is like a classic, Batman Joker aspect of why won't you kill? Because nothing good is going to come from him staying alive. More people are going to be, and Marcus is trying to hey, I want to end this cycle. I don't it's the faculty that are putting us against each other. So I want to end this cycle and not worry about each other and the students. I want to take rid of the faculty. And I get Stefano just dealing with this turmoil of going, yeah, but I'm on board with you, but still this person's horrible. And what he's doing and what he did has been horrible. And there's no value in keeping him alive. And Marcus is having this kind of juxtaposition where he's like, yeah, but I don't think this is the move for us to move forward.
Right.
And so it was interesting. I don't know how I feel about Foley, but it felt very like Jason Todd confronting Batman of why don't you kill the Joker? What he did to me. He's going to cause more. And Batman's like, this isn't who we are. It felt that.
And we've seen Marcus consistently try to make this choice.
Right.
He did it with Victor. He did it with Helmet. He did it now he's doing it with Shabnam. Of no, we have to stop. If we're going to stop this, we have to stop this. And with Victor, it sort of paid off for a little. It paid off in that moment and paid off later in that he helped him, although it didn't ultimately pay off for Victor.
Right.
With Helmet, it was not going to work in the moment because Helmet was too far gone in that moment. Here, boy, this is leaving this one alive does not seem like anything good can come from. But it is at least he's being consistent and this is, and you see him, he's no, you can see that panel where he's watching after not Stefano, gosh dang it, what is his name? We just said his name.
Shabnam?
Not Shabnam, the one that's helping Marcus.
Stefano, isn't it?
No, it's not Stefano. Is it Steven?
Oh, Steven.
Yeah. Right.
Who's the one that then? So Stefano was the one that died.
Stefano's the one that was hitting on Maria.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Steven. You give Steven the signal, and Steven going, in no way the right thing can come back to haunt us. And Marcus knows that it can, that it probably will, but he's still making that choice. So with that, we get to the confrontation. Marcus, Saya, Master Lin.
Right.
And we see, and Master Lin, master manipulator to the end here, and sort of pitting themselves together. I want to say, we haven't talked about in this volume the art very much. But these 2 pages.
Right.
And then when it goes to, when they're the black and white with the red, and then when it goes to, and then when they actually start fighting, the red just those are amazing pages for me. Like, what did you think of the art here before we get into the story?
Yeah, I mean, you got Wes Craig's art. You got the panel layout here of where, right there, Saya is across, but it's still moving the story forward by the other panels.
Yeah,
well, still keep like that is a beautiful thing.
It's like, a gorgeous page.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous page layouts, but it's gorgeous storytelling right there. And so, and then as soon as they start to fight, you go from the black and white to the red and white, and it is like, it's jarring, but you know instantly what's happening.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, Rick Remender, if I don't always agree with his storytelling techniques sometimes, that guy works with some of the best artists.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And like, he knows the type of artist that he wants to tell a story. So Wes Craig with this, is that, I think it's Marco who's doing Sacrificers with him right now, and it's gorgeous, and he knows what he needs for the story he wants to tell, and Wes Craig is perfect for this story.
Yeah. So we get to the end, and here's the question: is she hesitating to finish Marcus, or is that just the way the panels are laid out?
Oh, she's hesitating.
Yeah, that's what I was just curious if you both, like, to me, I read that as she hesitates. Like, she has him beat and she hesitates against still. And then the world goes to crap. And I do think this is a fun storytelling nod that he throws in the San Francisco Quick.
Right.
And into the story.
Because you still have this. It still gives you the tension of Marcus and Saya here of they might not agree on what's going on, but there still is a deep connection between the two of them. They're teenagers and they don't know what that means, but and then, it plays off in the previous issue where, what was it, 2007? So that is 8 years later, where Marcus sees Saya, who is a hot mess, still
2001. So 12 years later.
12 years later. So it jumps the story a lot, and it's like, hey, there's still something between Saya and Marcus, no matter what it is, and we don't know fully why she went on this bender of depression for.
Well, it seems to be clear that. Like, because that Marcus won to a certain degree here at the school,
right,
for the most part. And so Saya never got the support she needed in order to be able to go take on her brother.
Right.
And so she just spiraled from there. Whereas, by that scene we see at the end of the previous issue is Marcus has figured out something, whether it's something good or not, we'll find out. But
Marcus got a little James Bond in him in that issue. A little like, my name is Marcus Bond.
Yeah. I mean, he's clearly got spy, assassin, something going on. Okay. Last question here. Master Lin. Dead or alive?
I think he's alive.
I think so too. I think
thank goodness Gore's here.
Oh, he's putting details here. So we're wrapping up Gore. Unfortunately, Haley had something happen. She had to drop out, but she is okay to anybody that's been watching. I don't know if I actually said that or not, but everything's fine. She just didn't come back on. So I think for sure he is. I think both Marcus makes two choices here to spare people's lives, and I don't think he's ultimately going to benefit from those choices.
Well, there has to be a greater threat still. So it's either Shabnan or Master Lin because of the flash forward, flash backwards, where it's that happened in 89. He's, in 89, he let basically is, I think Master Lin's alive. and he let Shabnin stay alive.
Yeah.
And so now, 12 years later, when he met up with Saya at the end of the third issue of this volume, he's like, hey, he says, we got to finish things or something.
But, I forget what he says.
He says, rise and shine, sleepyhead. Oh, I guess he just says, rise and shine, sleepyhead.
But it's clear that
it implies that there's something.
Yeah, he's pulling her back into something.
Right. And so is it because you let Shabnin stay alive with Stefano? Is it because Masterland survived the earthquake? There has to be one of them, two, if not both of them. There has to be some conclusion if we still have 10 more issues to tell of this. And we know that Marcus is trying to.
There's something going on here. So, yeah, I'm curious. So, what do you think? Where's it going from here? What do you think?
I mean, we didn't get literally anything about Maria here, which was frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, we both have the hardcovers, and Maria's on the front of the hardcover. So
Maria's not.
She's not gone. Like,
she's not gone.
So she's still there. So I've been invested for what we're at 48 issues now. I want to know what happens.
You got to know what happens at this point.
And it's kind of this issue of let's figure out what is happening. Yes, Gore, we want to know where Maria is, and we know you know. Gore, we could have used you this issue because this volume was the struggle for me and JP.
I think way less so for me and Haley than it was for you, but yeah.
Yes.
But it was jarring. The time jump thing was jarring for sure here. And the continued time jumps was jarring. I mean, ultimately, I feel like I said at the beginning, that he was, whether he'd always planned to do this or somewhere along the line, he decided, okay, I'm going to start moving toward the end here. There's points I want to get to with Marcus.
Right.
I'm going to hit some key points in his future. And then through that, I'm going to tell the rest of the backstory, what happened while they were at King's Cross, jump back to that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I found it jarring, but overall, I'm super Spy Marcus and Saya are gonna go F some people up, and I'm ready for it. I'm here for it.
I'm here. Yes, I'm here for it too. But it felt like 3 to 4 issues where there wasn't a lot of payoff, and that third issue of this volume to get one panel where I'm like, yeah, Spy Marcus, I'm in now. That felt like, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. That felt like you could have told that.
I think he just really wanted to drive home. That issue actually bothered me maybe the least of the 3 leading up to the flashback issue, because I felt like he was really trying to just drive home. Okay, Saya is lost. The Saya you knew currently doesn't exist when Marcus finds her again. And so my guess is there's going to be a road back for her before we get to whatever it is they're going to go do. But we'll see. I don't know. We may jump to 2025 or something. I don't know.
And Corey, you are completely correct. People hate time jumps. I love the time jumps in Lost. It works for me. It works for me. So I don't know. And maybe it works for me because I know how it ended. So again, like I said earlier in the show, I might have a less harsher opinion on volume 10 once I know where we go.
Yeah.
But it was a tough road to plow through for me.
Yeah. I get that, but I'm here for. I'm ready for the ride.
Well, yeah, me too. Let's wrap.
Hopefully, we're going to be back. What did we say next week? We're going to.
I think we got it on the schedule for next week to do issue.
We're going to try to do
volume 11.
Volume 11. Hopefully, Haley will be able to join us for all of that one. So
who knows?
I hope. life does weird things sometimes. But like I said earlier, for anybody that was watching when she dropped off and everything, she's okay. She sent us a message. She's fine. So everything's good. But yeah. Any final thoughts overall on this that you want to get out that you haven't already said?
No, I think I've said this issue was this volume was.
So what you're looking forward to in the final 2 volumes is more bathroom jokes.
No. Stop it, Rick Remender. Stop. Control your middle school self, Rick Remender. Control it. Dagnab, don't say things like that, Gore.
I don't know where it's going, but I hope Greg doesn't hate it. I haven't heard anybody, the people that have talked about us reading that have talked about this. No, I haven't heard anybody say they didn't like the ending.
But Gore didn't like the ending of Lost, and I liked it. So
well, you are holy buckets, you're a little strange, but it's it's okay.
Hey, listen. I'm friends with John, who also liked it. So what do you say?
And way too often, John and I agree on stuff. Although I don't necessarily agree on the ending of Lost.
Well, but you're gonna see. We'll see what if the missus agrees with me and John or agrees with you and Gore here. So we're wrapping up season 2 now.
Nice. But I'll be honest, the show lost me before it ever got to the end. I during the journey, it didn't hold my interest. Like by the end, it was just like, okay, yeah.
Oh, Gore, don't say things like that. Oh, Gore. No, Gore.
Now he's just winding you up. He's just winding you up at this point.
Gore.
He's winding you up. So
why?
We'll find out what he thinks of volume 11 next week, and then we don't know who we're gonna get when we're gonna get volume 12. Hopefully soon after, because I think we'll all be ready to let's go.
Well, because is it just 12 after that, or is there 13?
No, there's just 12.
Oh, we better wrap this up quick because I need to know now.
Yeah,
we're on speed readability class.
We were doing Wednesdays, and that next Wednesday didn't work, but maybe we do a different night just to get it finished.
No, next Wednesday is when we're doing.
No. I meant we were doing this Wednesday for 10, next Wednesday for 11, but we couldn't do the Wednesday after for 12. So maybe we'll pick another night.
Was Haley or you? Because I think
it was Haley had something.
Haley.
Yeah. So.
Well, then November 1st. We're gonna wrap this up real soon, gang.
Yeah. We're gonna figure it out because we're not gonna let this linger too long because I want to know how it ends. So, all right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks, Gore, for hanging out at the end here. We miss you, buddy.
We do. I really wanted you this episode, Gore. I really did.
Yeah. Thank you, Tacoma, Kenneth, GT Key, Kingdom of Nerds, Phil, for all stopping by. I appreciate you. And we'll see you next Wednesday for more Deadly Class. Later, everybody. Bye.